Before I start my video, I want to give out a big shout out to Man on the Moon, who has been a member of my channel here on YouTube for 12 months. He is the 5th or 4th person, I think it's the 5th, to hit the 12-month marker. We have got quite a few on the trail, but you are the latest. Thank you very much, Moon. Appreciate the support, man. 12 months, long time. Now on to the video, guys. Hello, survivors, and welcome to another Walking Dead Road to Survival video. And in this video, we're going to be taking a first look at S-Class Morgan, who is going to be the next promo character coming to the game. We all know who Morgan is. He's one of the OG characters, one of my favorite 5 stars from back in the day. He was a fast character. He had AP on defense, I think, and I think it was defense leader for all melee characters, or it might have been actually just all fast characters. He was actually a pretty dangerous leader, obviously because he had AP on defense. Characters could gain their rushes real quick. He had a really nice heal. But now he's going to be a tough character. We have had tough characters of Morgan, I believe, already. I think there is a Command Morgan. Visually, he looks kind of sick. I like the get-up. This is him maxed out. The AK is an attached weapon. It does look really nice. But also the scarf, I think it's called a She-Meg. Pronouncing that probably quite wrong. It's a nice little get-up. I like it. It's pretty basic, but it's a nice visuals. We can see in the picture on the left, he is still wearing that, I'm gonna call it a She-Meg again, like the scarf, basically. He looks pretty cool. I like the visuals quite a lot. He has got 30 veterans, of course, with these stats, which are 3,789 attack, 3,873 defense, and 4,644 HP. Now, he is a tough character, as we could see, but he is also a tank, and we don't get too many tanks in Road to Survival. We don't get too many medics. We get a lot of damage dealers within the S-Class era, and it's nice to see. He hasn't got hugely one-sided stats as a tank, which I actually kind of like. He has got one stat that's very high, but we have seen some tank characters in recent times, or I'm not even sure if they're classified as tanks, but Georgia and the Trader, who have got very unbalanced stats. So it is nice to see it a little bit more balanced, while you can still get very, very high defensive stats when boosting them with weapon, leader, that sort of thing. Now, I'll take a little peek at his rush, and it's called Unnerving Mania. It is a 66 AP cost rush, so pretty quick. Up to 5 enemies get attack up block for 2 turns. Those characters get taunt for 1 turn. This character gains 50% bonus HP. So there's a little bit going on here. Obviously, the attack up, I believe, we'll test this out, but I believe it only stops them from being able to get the buff, not if they've already got it, but we'll see if it actually removes the buff if they've already got it. Them all getting taunted, that's a 5 character taunt on a 66 AP rush, means you could potentially get this going off really, really quickly. And obviously he's going to gain AP every time he's hit with those 5 attacks, so he's going to be able to potentially do this rush twice in a row if he gets commanded. It is only a 1-turn taunt, but it is 5 characters getting taunted. Now, taunt is probably one of the more sort of meta controls at the moment, in terms of a lot of people do obviously gear themselves to resist it quite heavily, but it is still very, very powerful if it actually happens. The bonus HP is going to be a nice little cherry on top. Lots of bonus HP there. 50% is a lot, and especially as the HP is his best base defensive stat as a tank, so when you want to raise it, you can probably raise his HP quite a bit, and that bonus HP is going to be even more increased. So let's say you get 10,000 HP, he's going to get 50% of that every time he does his rush. Another 5,000 bonus HP each pop. Okay, so we are on the 2nd turn. I'm going to do my buff to obviously give all my team focus, which actually will stop the taunt, but I'm also going to give myself attack up. This is to see if the block attack up actually gets removed on my characters when Morgan gets command rushed here. So he will get command rushed. I will not be taunted because I've got the focus for 1 turn, so that's the main benefit of that. But as you see, I still have the attack up, and it has not removed the attack up, but it would stop it if it happened afterwards. So in this case, it will not remove attack up if you already have it on your characters. So that was the only part of the rush that I really wasn't sure about. The rest of it is pretty self-explanatory. The taunt, you saw I blocked it because of focus. That is the only way around it you can really get without resisting it. And there are a lot of characters that do have focus nowadays, but this is going to be popping off a lot. And what I've noticed about focus characters, it can be quite decent to get the first focus up, but it's the second one where there's a problem. And, you know, the 50% HP on top of that is going to give him, you know, much better survivability to get that second rush up. It's only 66 AP, so he's going to be able to get that up quite quickly. And what's also going to help him is his active, because if we look at the active, It removes focus, it recovers all penalties and gives bonus HP. It has an initial cooldown of 2, so he can do that turn 2, and he will prioritize his rush over this though. So if he gets his rush turn 2, he will do his rush first, but we'll check out the rest of it. It is a cooldown of 1, so he's going to do this basically whenever he can, every other turn. Remove focus from up to 2 enemies. This character recovers from all penalties and gains 50% bonus HP. Okay, so we're back on turn 2 again, and this time around he will do his active instead of it being command rush, because there's no command here. So what we're going to do is we are going to obviously pop this off, and what you're going to see happen is Morgan will do his active, and Kenny and Bide both had the focus removed for them, so they no longer have the focus. He would have cleansed anything that was on him, any sort of effect, unless it was something that was stopping him doing his active, like taunt, confuse, or stun. Those are the 3 that would stop him. Impair, he would cleanse basically everything else. Days off, obviously he wouldn't be able to do his active, but he would cleanse everything else. So bleeds, infection, it's actually going to be pretty good. It's going to be hard to take him down with infection characters because he's going to be popping this off quite often. And he's also going to be, like I said, removing that focus and making it easier for your team to maybe defend against certain situations, making shields a little bit more relevant with this character in the team. There is a potential where that could come into effect. It is also worth mentioning with the active of Morgan, you can see how the upgrades go. You could decide that you want the cooldown to be 1 turn less than it actually is. So rather than it being a 1 turn cooldown, you want it to be a 2 turn cooldown. And that way you just level it up to 7. You have a lot of control of how what turn this goes off at. If you want it to go off at turn 3, the starting cooldown, you can make it say it goes off at a turn 3. If you want the cooldown to be 2 turns rather than 1, it really depends on how the makeup of your team is, how actually decent you think this active is in the team you're going to use him in. So there's a lot of potential around this, and I think this guy is mainly going to be used on a defense team, the setup I'm seeing at the moment. And I like the fact that you have a lot of control over the power of this active in terms of how often it goes off and so on and so forth. And why that's important is because he doesn't gain AP here, so he will still need to do basic attacks. And in terms of the order of how he would do things, he would do a basic attack turn 1, his active turn 2, basic attack turn 3, rush turn 4. And you might actually think to yourself, that's actually a bit slow. So what you could do is make the initial cooldown 3 turns by only getting up to 6 like I showed before. Then he'd do basic attack turn 1, basic attack turn 2, could be rush turn 2, or natural rush turn 3, command rush turn 2, and then he'd do his active turn 4 or turn, the next turn after his rush, depending on if he got commanded or not. You could see that as a potential better way, better order of things. It really depends what you think the issue is with him in a team. I think the fact that he removes all the penalties is really good. Obviously, infection is a massive issue for a lot of teams. It is only to himself, unfortunately, with the recover all penalties, but he will stay alive basically because of this. And this is where we come to the sort of cherry on top with this character. It is a specialist skill that we all know, Bide, but it is Bide 2. And it is going to change just a little bit, but it's going to be enough that it's going to be quite relevant in the S-Class era. This character stores the damage it takes from attacks, active abilities, and rushes, just like the original Bide did. But instead of after receiving a certain amount of damage flat, it's going to be percentage. After storing damage equal to 30% of its max HP, or if the defend action is used, deal 150% of the stored damage to one enemy immediately. Stored damage is reset to 0 after use. Bide does not trigger if this character is killed. So it works exactly the same as Bide, but rather than you storing 2,000 and reflecting back 3,000, now it's based on your actual HP numbers. On his base HP, it would be 1,500, around that, and then you'd reflect back an extra 750 on top, so it'll be 2,250. However, if you got this guy to 12,000 HP, after you take 4,000 damage, you'd reflect back 6,000. So you can see it's a little bit more impactful in the S-Class era. And of course the fact that he can do it whenever. I know a lot of attacking characters maybe have around about 3,500 to 4,500 HP, so he won't necessarily have to do it when he hits the actual amount of stored damage. He will just be knocking people out, and you do see that happen in the 6-dot era. You know, if you remember coming up against Elle in the 5-on-1 situation, she would just be doing that constantly. Even if you didn't hit the max of the Bide, she'd just be taking people out that had low enough HP. Morgan's going to be doing exactly the same. Okay, so we're going to come up against him again, and this time I'm going to focus him. The previous times you saw me focus Pete, and that was obviously just so you couldn't see the Bide so much. You would have seen the logo and stuff, but you know, I tried to keep some things secret for later on in the video. If I long press on him, you can see I've got a basic 30% HP weapon, nothing too spectacular there, and some mods on him. 485 HP plus 650 for the set. His total HP is just under 9,000. Now when he takes 30% of his HP as damage, he will reflect that back to whoever is the last person attacking him for, I think it's going to be around about 4,000 damage. 30% of that, divide by 2 times 3 is around about 4,000. So we'll see about the attack stat that he's going to get hit as a motorbike goes past my house at midnight. Fantastic. So the next hit should be Priya getting hit by this. Oh, it's not. I'm going to command her. What's it going to be? 4,043. And as you can see, he's actually going to get that rush off. This is where it's going to become dangerous, as you can see. But none of these characters could have tanked that who are damage dealers. The Gentleman, Bide, Priya, and these are the characters that are going to proc that more often than not. The characters that can survive this, the support characters, are not going to hit that last hit a lot of the time. Now the thing here is, you can basically manipulate how much damage he does by making his HP a certain amount. So if you reduce his HP by 2,000, it would obviously proc more often, but it would hit for less damage. You've got to find that perfect balance of the amount of HP he's going to have. Nothing else manipulates this, so it doesn't matter how much defense he's got. The defense just makes him receive less damage when he does get hit, but it won't change how much he actually hits back with Bide. And when I say Bide, of course, I mean Bide 2, because that was Bide 2. And you saw the rush go off as well, because I obviously procced his rush with the amount of attacks I was doing. And that just made his Bide go up again. And that's how it's going to roll. That's how it's going to roll. But this is quite a nice kit so far. It's dangerous. The combos are nice. You have a lot of control in terms of the active, how often you want to go off. But this is the next bit. And this is where this guy goes from, I think, being probably like top tier to being like potentially S tier, where we look at the weapon, and as you can see, it is Morgan's defensive silenced assault rifle. It has a 30% defense base, a medium bonus to AP when taking damage. That's the upgrade slot. You can do whatever you want here. You can go for AP on defense if you want. It's totally up to you. Now the last slot is when being attacked, a 25% chance to gain 25% AP. This reminds me so much. I think it's even more powerful than 6-star Cameron Scar, and he was a Bide character as well, and he was nasty because he would obviously taunt your characters into him, and then he's gaining AP procs from doing that. Now, I had an attached weapon in all of the tests I just showed you, so this weapon wasn't in his hands, and you saw he gained 50% of his AP back when he did it, and you can just get people in taunt loops, and that's exactly what you want to happen. Now, this is where it comes into, again, another balancing issue with his rush and his active, because even if you have got his active going off every turn, or every 1 turn, that means it's 1 turn, skip a turn, 1 turn, skip a turn. If he's getting his rush every turn because he's getting the procs on his 3rd slot, he will never do his active. So there's always upsides and downsides to these things. It's very hard to balance out, but you probably would want his rush to go off as much as possible, to be honest. Okay, so we're going to attack again with exactly the same team. This time he has got his base weapon attached. It is just base. He's going to get a 30% defense boost instead of HP, so his HP will be reduced, and that means his Bide 2 will be less powerful. So again, you're going to have to find that perfect balance, and it does seem around 9,000 seems decent. If you're dealing 4k damage, you're going to take out most damage dealers a lot of the time. We're just going to do the basic attacks, and we're going to see if it procs. If you see red text pop up above someone's name, it's made his weapon proc. She did get extra targets. We haven't seen it proc yet. There we go. It did proc there, and it obviously proc the Bide as well. He's going to pop off on the rush. 4 of my characters got hit. Another Bide goes off, and then he's nearly got his rush again, because I think it did proc maybe once or twice there. Now, I think he's going to do his active on this turn. We'll see what happens. But you see, he's barely taken any damage because of that 50% bonus HP from his rush. We'll just get the next attack off because one of my people did resist. I don't want to proc that to actually happen. He's going to do his active this time. He's going to remove 2 people's chances of getting focus if they've got it already. Now, I would do my Kenny buff right now. I'm going to get the focus, but I'm not getting any attack up. And he's got 100% bonus HP. I don't know how he just got 100% bonus HP. I don't think he was meant to get 100% bonus HP there. Oh no, Pete did his as well. So yeah, there are potential for other characters to give him bonus HP as well. So I mean, even if I was to rush him, like say with Priya, we'll try and rush with Priya. He's going to proc that, and we'll try and rush again. We just can't do the damage. We just can't do the damage. Now, obviously, Normalize is going to come in here, and that's going to be his biggest issue. But his active is going to recover Normalize. This is going to be pretty brutal if you get it set up like that perfect sweet spot for the rush active like cooldowns. So his weapon is obviously very powerful. You'd have to decide, like I said, where you'd want to go in terms of, do you want to give him HP so the Bide's more powerful? Do you want to take less damage? Like I said, the sweet spot seems to be about 9,000 to 11,000 HP probably in terms of dealing a lot of Bide 2 damage back, enough to one-shot an S-class damage dealer, for instance. But even if you have low, you can see he had lower Bide reflect there because of the HP was lower. He was still just so hard to kill. I rushed with some very heavy damage dealers there, and he didn't have really tanked out stats. You can definitely get higher stats with a maxed out 5-star weapon. You're looking at like a 10,000 plus in both defense and HP if you tank him out properly with the mods and stuff like that. So very dangerous character overall. I think his overall kit is very nice. It obviously synergizes well with each other. I think you've got to maybe take your time on deciding how high you want to raise his active. I think you should just max out his rush pretty much by the looks of things, but his active is the one that it's whether you want to go for 6, 7 or 8, basically 6, 7 or 8. Do you want the starting cooldown to be slower? Do you want the cooldown to be slower? You know, if he's got his rush up every turn, it doesn't make any difference anyway, but overall I think this guy's kit is pretty nasty, and while his weapon isn't a real, you know, non-window, you still don't want to attack it. You don't want that to proc. He can definitely get commanded real quick. And yeah, this is really brutal. The fact that Normalize, of course, he can cleanse it with his active as well, so the Bide 2 can come back. This is much more powerful than Bide 1. I don't think we're going to see Rosita upgraded to Bide 2 somehow. I think that's very, very doubtful. But yeah, this guy can work in a lot of different teams as well. Pete leads, Javi leads. You know, it's going to be pretty interesting to see. But that's Morgan, guys. I like him a lot. Morgan is one of my favorite OG 5-star characters for sure. He looks sick as well as an S-class character, as you can see. I'm just talking about visuals here, but his kit is pretty nasty as well. But do tell me what you think about this character, guys. That is the end of my video. I want to thank you very much for tuning in. And as always, keep on surviving, guys. Keep on surviving.